Hi, this is Wanda from Alanda Craft, and this is our quilting block channel. Now today we're going to be making the Hope of Hartford Quilt Block. It's a really lovely little quilt block, and you can use this in a quilt or a cushion cover or even a table runner. So let's get on and show you how to make it. So here's what you're going to need. From our light fabric, you want to cut a square that is 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and we also want 4 strips that are 2 1/2 by 4 1/2. Now from our medium fabric, we cut one square that is 5 1/4 and one that's 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. And then from our dark fabric, we're going to cut 2 squares that are 4 7/8. Now we don't need these pieces for the moment, so what I'm going to do is just pop them aside until we're ready for them. Now we're going to take our 4 7/8 pieces of fabric and we bring them over, and what we're going to do is we're just going to cut them in half. So we'll put our ruler from point to point, get our cutter, and we'll just cut straight across there. And we're going to do that with both pieces, point to point and straight across. And what that's going to do is give us 4 triangles. Okay, so I'll just open those so you can see them properly. So we'll end up with 4 triangles. Now with our 5 1/4 pieces, we're going to cut them like this. We're going to go across from the diagonal, and we'll cut that right there. And then we're going to turn and we're going to cut them this way. Okay, so what that's going to do is give us 4 triangles. And we're going to do exactly the same with the other piece. So both of your 4 and your 5 1/4, both your 5 1/4 pieces will end up with 4 triangles. So now we need to lay out our pieces so that they kind of form our block. Don't worry if you can't remember what it looks like, because we'll have a picture on the website for you. In the description below there'll be a link. So what we need to do now is we're going to take our small triangles, and we have 4 sets of those, as you can see here, and we're going to sew those together. So we put the triangles right sides together. Now I like to pop a pin in once I've done that, because I sometimes get to the sewing machine and then sew the wrong edges together. So I pop a pin in, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way down here, and I'm going to do that with each of those sets of triangles. Now this is what they'll look like when you've sewn them together, and you press the seam to the dark side. So I'll just pop those ones out for now and pop the ones we've sewn in. So all 4 of those will look like that. Then we take our large triangles and we just pop them on top, right sides together, and again we're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam all the way down here. And when we've done that, it'll look like this. So again, we've pressed our seam to the dark side. So it's starting to come together. Okay, so all of those 4 sections will then look like that. Now we need to put our straight pieces. So we take our straight piece, our strip, and we just put it on top, and again right sides together, and sew with a 1/4 inch seam all the way along here. And when we've done that, this is what it'll look like. Again, this time we've pressed to the long side. So we'll have all 4 rectangles will look like that. So what I'm going to do now is go and finish off my rectangles. So I'll go and sew these ones together, and then we'll come back and do the next step. So I've done that now. I've sewn all my rectangles together. So now we need to attach them to the square. So what we do is just take it and fold it in half and make a little finger crease. Now you can just use the crease if you like. I like to use a pen and just put a bit of a mark there. Use a friction pen or a water-soluble pen, fabric pen. Don't use a ballpoint. So now I'm going to take that square and I'm just going to lay it over one of the rectangles, lining up the edges here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch from the edge to that line that I've drawn. Now I'm going to back stitch here, and I'm going to back stitch here. We don't normally back stitch in quilting, but in this case we're going to. So I'll go and do that now, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So as you can see, I've sewn the square on, and I've back stitched here and I've back stitched here. I've gone a little bit past the line, but that's okay as long as you don't go all the way along. So then just give it a little bit of a press, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to take our side piece, our side rectangle, and lay it down over there, and we'll go and sew that with a 1/4 inch seam. So when we come back, that's what it's going to look like. It'll be all attached. So we're sewing those 2 rectangles and the square together, as you can see here, and we still have our little flappy bit that we didn't sew down. And we've pressed the seam towards the square in this case. So the next thing we need to do is take our next rectangle and lay it over top. And then we're going to attach that with a 1/4 inch seam all the way along so that it's attached to both the square and the rectangle. So now we're ready to attach our last rectangle. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're just going to lay it across, right sides together. But what we need to do is, remember we left our flap here. Well, we want to open that so that it's flat. And we just want to pin, I'll pop a pin in there. And we're going to pin that all the way down and sew it with a 1/4 inch seam. Now I'm just going to show you that one more time because it can be a bit tricky. So the idea is that we're putting our right sides together and we lift that up and we're just going to flatten that square, the seam allowance there, so that it matches up with our rectangle. Okay, and then we're going to sew all the way down with a 1/4 inch seam. So we've sewn that rectangle on and we've pressed the seam towards the square there. So now what we need to do is to attach this last little piece here. So we're going to fold that over. And remember where we backstitched to last time? We're going to put our needle in and we're going to backstitch again because this is the middle of the block and it's not going to get attached to something else, so it needs to be secure. So we're just going to do a little backstitch and then we're just going to sew those 2 pieces together again, and that will be the end of the block. It'll be all finished. So I'll go and do that now. So there you have it, the Hope of Hartford Quilt Block. Now if you've enjoyed this tutorial, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget you can see the full written instructions over on our website at alandacraft.com.